you, after they've had a look at SOS, then you'd take them to the monks area, and Sue will take the others to the nuns area, and then you could remain there, and Sue could remain there, and the groups change over if they want to, something like that.
Hello everyone.
Oh, good.
And welcome to the Victorian Buddhist Society's Kathine Robe offering ceremony. It's great to see everyone huddled in here on a typical Newbury morning. I'd also like to extend a welcome to Don Henderson, the Mayor of the Hepburn Shire. My name's Ben. I've been a member here for going on 4 years, and I'm really excited to be the MC for today. Just a few, before we start, we'd like to do acknowledgement to country. So we acknowledge the Dja Dja Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the lands and waters that which we stand on. We pay our respects to the elders past and present of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and to their culture and law. Before we start, just a few housekeeping things to tidy up. Public toilets. It's your first time here. You would have probably gone past them, past the merch stand and to the left. And the emergency exits, you follow the green signs around here. Hopefully we don't need them. Some first aid information. We'd just like to bring to your attention Dr. Yick. Dr. Yick, are you here? Would you like to stand up? He'll be able to help you out if needed.
Medical problem?
That's right, if needed. And we have a first aid kit here as well, which come to us and we can let you know where that is. But for any other problems or queries, please contact myself. But please be advised, I'm not a doctor, so Dr. Yick's got all that. And also, we'd just like to acknowledge for our elderly members and those with a disability, when we go to lunch, please allow them, we'll let them go first to get into the food queue. And make sure they have priority seating as well. Obviously, with the weather, we might be indoors a little bit more today, so making sure they have good seating. And that concludes our housekeeping. I'd now like to bring our President to give his welcome message.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Srijit. I'm the President of the Buddhist Society of Victoria. For those who are new here, so my notes, for those who are new here, a very special welcome to you as well. So this centre is set on 150 acres of land here at Newbury, which was purchased by the Buddhist Society of Victoria as part of our Forest Monastery project. On this property, we have 3 centres. We have a monks monastery, a nuns monastery, and we have this centre here, which is the layperson's retreat centre, meditation retreat centre. And here we offer a number of things. So we offer monastic-led retreats and also layperson-led retreats. And they can range from, these are organised retreats, they can range from between weekends, short weekend retreats to 9-day retreats, and they can accommodate up to 24 people. We've got cottages here, and each of the cottages has 6 rooms, so we've got 24 rooms that we have. Also, for those who have a sort of a good meditation practice, we offer self-retreats, and for those, you can book in for those self-retreats if you want like an extended stay. We welcome you to join those as well. In terms of our operations here, so you'd think that putting a retreat centre in the middle of a monastery would be an ideal setting, but it comes with its own sets of challenges. So as with any organisation that has multiple departments and different objectives, there are times when there are conflicts and times when there are competing priorities. So these things all need to be managed, and a Buddhist society is no different to any other organisation. So we've been operating now for just under 9 months, and you know, I think we've got still a way to go before we sort of bed down a good operating model here that's harmonious to everyone. So for anyone who's stayed here, I'm sure you'll know that this is a pretty comfortable, it really is like a world-class centre for as a retreat centre in terms of the setting here. And we encourage all parts of our community. The City Zen group, they're utilising it fantastically. the Dhamma school, the teens group. We'd like all parts of our community to use these facilities. There's really not much point it's sitting here going empty. Okay, so, but I also need to make you aware that covering the ongoing costs of running Newbury has become increasingly challenging for us as a committee. And with the current level of donations and the retreat income that we've been receiving, our cash reserves may come under a bit of strain over the next 6 to 9 months. We're very grateful to the council who we've been working with over the last couple of weeks and on what actions we need to take as an organisation here to maximise the number of retreats we can run with our current infrastructure that we have here and generate some additional revenue from retreats. So ways that you can support things. So today you can support through purchasing some of the robes and requisites. Much of these are symbolic, and that will go towards this year. That money will go towards the Newbury General Operations Fund, as opposed to the previous years we've been putting that into the building fund. You can make donations directly to the Newbury General Fund, but you can also keep an eye out for some of the retreats that we're doing. So, joining some of those upcoming retreats or joining a self-retreat, all of that goes towards the operational costs and feeds in towards supporting the centre. You can also, if you've got skills, you can also lend your skills that we would otherwise have to cover through contract labour. So probably time for me to wrap up, but if on behalf of the committee, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Enjoy the festivities, and our City Zen Young Adults group and the organising committee and the Sangha have been putting like 8 weeks of meticulous planning behind this. So please enjoy all of the hard work that they've been putting in. So thank you.
Thank you, Srijit. We can now officially start the proceedings. We now invite Fatima Gray to request the 3 refuges and 5 precepts in English from Ajahn Nissarano.
Good. We're doing it in English today, so there we are. Great. Yeah, please take the front seat, and I've got to remember to move it on, I think. Let's see. Is that it? Ah, yeah. And please, you can join in. Of course, you'll join in for the precepts and everything, but even the requesting you can, where it says here, Venerable, we request the 3 refuges and the 5 training rules. And these are the basics of the Buddha's teaching, really, taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha as an inner refuge for us, and then also taking a refuge in ethical behaviour. We call them the 5 precepts. So they're totally voluntary because we have to keep them. It's not somebody watching us or anything like that. So it's voluntary. Yeah, there we are. All right, over to you. Oh, yeah, you need a mic, I think. Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, now I've got to remember this bit. Please join in.
About to start?
Yeah.
Great. Venerable, we request the 3 refuges and the 5 training rules. For the second time, Venerable, we request the 3 refuges and the 5 training rules. For the third time, Venerable, we request the 3 refuges and the 5 training rules.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And now I do the homage to the Buddha 3 times, and then after that you're welcome to do it 3 times, and then we do it line by line after that, all right? Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly awakened one.
And now for the refuges. To the Buddha I go for refuge.
Buddha I go for refuge.
To the Dhamma I go for refuge.
Dhamma I go for refuge.
To the Sangha I go for refuge.
To the Sangha I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Buddha I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Buddha I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Dhamma I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Dhamma I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Sangha I go for refuge.
For the second time to the Sangha I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Buddha I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Buddha I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Dhamma I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Dhamma I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Sangha I go for refuge.
For the third time to the Sangha I go for refuge.
Here we are. That's right. So this completes the going for refuge. It's not there, but don't worry. So now we do the precepts line by line. So there we are. For those who wish to take the precepts. I undertake the training rule to refrain from killing living beings.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from killing living beings.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from stealing.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from stealing.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from lying.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from lying.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from alcohol and drugs which lead to carelessness.
I undertake the training rule to refrain from alcohol and drugs which lead to carelessness.
And now we can have the aspiration. This is a very good way to program our mind so that we remember the precepts. And I give you the prompt, and then if you like to repeat it 3 times. I undertake to practice these 5 training rules.
I undertake to practice these 5 training rules. I undertake to practice these 5 training rules. I undertake to practice these 5 training rules.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And then the little blessing. Through virtue, these 5 training rules lead to happiness, lead to good fortune, lead to liberation. Therefore, let them be purified.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And that means well done, well done. That's a Buddhist speak for well done. There we are. Now we can go on. And everybody, we can join in together to chant or the recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. And of course the Sangha is the monastic Sangha, monks and nuns. So there we are. And in this case it's of course the enlightened or awakened Sangha, should mention that. It's a very high standard. The Blessed One is the Arahant, the perfectly awakened one. He is impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished one, the knower of the worlds. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. He is teacher of devas and humans. He is awake and holy. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading inwards, to be personally experienced by the wise. There we are, and now for the Sangha. They are the Blessed One's disciples, who are practicing well, who are practicing directly, who are practicing insightfully, who are practicing with integrity. That is the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They are the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. There we are. I think that's, there we are. So over to...
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you. There we are.
We'd now like to invite the Honourable Mayor of the Hepburnshire, Don Henderson, to give his address.
Ah, lovely.
Well, thank you everybody for allowing me the privilege to come here amongst you today. Reflecting about my own life coming here as mayor and as a councillor, and I've been a councillor since 2008, believe it or not. It's a long time to some, but to me it's just been a fleeting moment. And why do I do the job as a councillor? Because it's probably something for myself, believe it or not. It's a selfish thought, because for me it makes me feel good to be able to go out into the community and to help people achieve what they have in their life, to see that they can be better, that they can help. It gives me an opportunity especially to go amongst the young people. And I see many young people here today, because I'm not saying about being old is something less, sometimes it's more, but the young people are our future, and to have young people here. And as I walked in, I noticed so many people, as they greeted me, they smiled, they said hello. How important is that, just that simple thing? But as I was coming here, I drove through the bush. Now, I live in the bush. I live in the middle of the bush at Creswick, and I've had a fairly turbulent life. I've had a life that's been sometimes mixing with people who are violent. I've seen the greed and avarice, and greed is one of the things that I least like in the world today. It's the greed and the striving for ever more, get more wealth, more riches. And what are the riches we get? You can't put your inner self and well-being in your back pocket. You can spend your self-awareness, and that's easy to spend because it's always renewable. It comes from within. And I think of the times in my life, and I notice stillness is one of the things here. In my life, whenever I've been under extreme pressure, I've suffered some trauma and loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, loss in some way, or a feeling of not being worthy. I've gone into the bush and just sat quietly. And I see the busyness around me, the birds, they're so active, the ants, all those little creatures are all going about their lives being busy. And they're all got an aim and a purpose. And here I am, I think, trying to go forward, always going forward. And when I go into the bush and just sit on a stump or just sit on the ground and I look around me and see those creatures all about their life, and they don't have perhaps the concerns I have. Some of them do have to worry where their next meal's coming from, or how they provide for their fledglings, or how they find the food. Even the ants, they've got to find the food. And I think, well, how insignificant is what I'm thinking in comparison to what's happening to the rest of the people and the rest of the creatures in the world, and what's happening to nature. And I'm able to stand still, because I think stillness is very important in life. To be able to just stop, take stock, say, what is it that you are, Don? What are you? Are you a person who wants to drive forward and be greedy and be nasty? Do you want to be a person who understands where other people are coming from? walk in their steps maybe, and you'll see that, Don, you're not so important after all. You're merely a vehicle to be able to help others. And that's the way I live my life. Now, I've been many times to the ashram out at Kawinji Bora. I've been to Porcupine Ridge, had a thoroughly good time. In my lifetime, I've been into the cathedrals of the world. I've been into all sorts of places. I've dealt with so-called Marxists, communists. I've dealt with very pious people, religious people who do some of the things, unfortunately, that we heard our good friends speak about. They haven't followed the doctrines of life. They haven't followed what they should be doing, and that's of love and care, and perhaps getting inner peace. Because I found that if I don't have peace with myself, I'm not able to put that peace out to other people. And I think the main thing is to learn to know yourself. Because if you know yourself, that's a good starting point for me. And often I go into poetry. I'm a great lover of poetry, and coming out here, everyone talks about Shakespeare and Milton and all those people. But Australia has some great poets. And often I think of Adam Lindsay Gordon. If you haven't heard of Adam Lindsay Gordon, do have a look. And because I'm 78, I'm starting to become a bit weary. And I think of that poem, Ye Weary Wayfarer. And not verbatim, but part of that is, question not, but live and labour, till yon goal be won. Helping every feeble neighbour, seeking help from none. Life is mostly froth and bubble. Two things stand like stone. Kindness in another's trouble, courage in your own. Now, I disagree with Adam Lindsay Gordon in one aspect. We should seek help from others. We can't do it all on our own. The world is just too overwhelming to do it all on our own. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out, but that's the only thing I disagree about. I think having courage in your troubles is great. Having kindness. When you give out kindness, when you take from people, it's gone. But when you give out kindness, there's more of it to come. And I often say to little children, and they relate to this, do you approach the dog that growls, or do you approach the dog that's wagging their tail? Because that dog that's wagging its tail saying, welcome, I welcome you into my presence, and I'm going to enjoy your company. I'm not going to growl at you and be nasty. There's too many growling dogs in the world at the moment. I'm sure you've noticed if you watch the media, and you'll see the people who are practicing greed and avarice. I want what someone else has got. I'm going to take that. Well, this world, sadly, for those people, is not going to be a good world. The world for people who give is the best place. And that's how I like to live my life. I'm very sure that nearly everybody in this room is a giver. And because giving, people say to me, why do you do all these community things? And I sometimes think, why do I do this? Is it because it makes me feel good? Well, sometimes, yes. Giving makes you feel good. But when you see the joy that you're able to give by giving of yourself to others, that's the real joy that you get. Being satisfied that you've helped someone in life. Seeing the young children, and I do programs, make bird boxes and things with young kids. And I see them, instead of writing the graffiti, I say, which is what they say, look at me, I've written something. And I say, make a bird box. Look at me, look at that beautiful rosella in that box. I did that, that's me. How good is that, to make them feel so important and to make them feel like they are part of life? And the so-called bad kids that I meet, the school sends them to me because they're not bad kids. They just need to understand that there's some rules in life. And the good way of living is the most rewarding way of living. I know I've probably bored you with my little doctrines of my own life and my way of living, but when you're stressed, I urge you, find stillness, find your inner peace, and most importantly, find yourself, because from yourself you can then go out and give. And you don't always have to go forward. Take a step back, stand still, and then you can go forward. Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate having you in the midst of our wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Some great points. We'd now like to have the monastic reflections of the Rains Retreat. So we'd like to invite Ayya Sankappa and Ajahn Nissarano to give their brief reflections of this year's Rains Retreat.
Yeah, very nice.
So, good morning, everyone. I'll just read from here. So, thank you for the opportunity to share some reflections on Vasa 2025. So, there are many things to reflect on, but I would like to share 3 main ones with you today. The first reflection is on impermanence. So, this relates to Ayya Upeka's departure. Although Ayya had already shared her plans to leave in April 2026 after the AGM, her early departure reminds us that things can change at any moment. Life is uncertain, and sometimes we cannot control what happens. All we can do is accept the situation with grace and move forward. The second reflection is about gratitude. We have deep gratitude to Ayya Upeka, who has a pioneer in establishing of NBM. In the early years, she held this place together almost on her own, with great strength, resilience, and a deep commitment to doing what is right, even when it was difficult. Without her dedication, especially her effort to create a path for women to train and ordain, Ayya Sunyata and I would not be sitting here today. Her compassion and determination have touched the lives of many, and we are truly thankful. The third reflection comes from a creative twist on AFL. Last month, the AFL Grand Final took place in Melbourne. While AFL usually stands for Australian Football League, the Ajahn Brahm offers a different version. Acknowledge, forgive, and let go. This ties beautifully into the ancient tradition we observe on the last day of Vasa, known as the Bhavarana Day. On this day, monastics from the dual Sangha who have spent the Vasa together come forward to invite feedback on their behavior. They ask for forgiveness for any wrongdoings by body, speech, or mind that may have occurred over the past 3 months. This is a beautiful practice that goes back to the Buddha's time. Here at NBM, we also include the lay community who have lived with us during the Vasa. This year, we would like everyone to extend this spirit of forgiveness to ourselves for our shortcomings, to others for their mistakes, and to life for not always going the way we hoped. When we forgive, we create space for healing, and with it, a renewed sense of connection, kindness, and hope for the days ahead. So thank you again for your support, and we hope you enjoy the Kathine celebration.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. So wonderful that so many people have come. I'm wondering if there are some seats or cushions down at the front if some would like to sit on those cushions. I don't know if there is chairs for others to sit on around the walls, but there we are. Wonderful you've come today. Of course, the weather is not as we would have liked, but it's always a test of people's strength of their intention to come. And of course, that's when we have strong intention. It's creating what we call good karma, strong good karma. The stronger the effort we need to make, then the greater the good karma that we're creating, provided it's a good thing we're doing. So the state of the mind is always foremost in the Buddha's teaching. Don gave a beautiful talk, which really, I thought, stole our thunder. Good on you. I think that's a great philosophy for life. So I'd just like to start all right, it's already 10. The monks, I might just abbreviate as we're up to 10 now, just introduce the monks that spent the Vassa here and also those that are visiting, just so you get an idea. The Vassa is the rains retreat. It's a 3 months annual rains retreat that the Buddha implemented way back then, because it was a time when the monsoons, when the rainy season was happening. So it wasn't a good time to be wandering, which many at the Buddhist monks and probably the Buddhist nuns were doing a lot of. So this is a time we stay put. And I was here for the rains retreat, and I'm Ajahn Nissarano. And this is Ajahn Aranavihari. He was also here for the rains retreat. He's been here for 6 years. I've been here for 5 years. And the next one who is here is Venerable Samangalo. Can you put your hands up? There we are. And he's been here for a while. And also Venerable Nivato and Venerable Metavihari, there we are. And last but not least, Venerable Kondanyo, our novice. So they are the monks who spent the Vassa here. And of course, Ajahn Sadharo spent the Vassa, the 3-month meditation retreat, in the city centre in Buddhaloka. So thank you very much for coming today. And next to him is Ajahn Sunyo, who is from Ajahn Brahm's monastery in Western Australia. And he's come to teach a retreat next weekend, and has the intriguing title of Food for the Mind. I asked him, what are you cooking up? We'll see anyway. And just to give a brief recapitulation of how the rains retreat was. And as I mentioned, there was quite an eventful rains retreat, because of course Ira Paik had left, and that was of course impacted particularly on the nuns area, the nuns themselves. But she left so well, so joyfully, apart from the extreme back problem that she had, which is why she left. And she left in a week, so of course we felt her absence when she'd gone. In a week it was just sort of a bit unbelievable. But of course, as Don pointed out, this shows us the impermanence of everything, how it changes. But these seismic changes in our lives, when a loved one dies, when maybe a pet dies, these are the sorts of things that really make us aware of this impermanence. We talk about impermanence all the time, the Buddha did, but it is running our lives. It is happening as we sit here. It's happening all the time, but we pay attention usually when big things happen, seismic things happen. So we wish Aya well. She's had medical treatment, so that's good, and she's undertaking a 3-month retreat, so sadhu. And when I spoke to her, when I first heard she was leaving, I was, saying, well, you've got to think of the community, you can't go now and all this. But she was so joyful. She was so ready to retire. She was going to retire in April, but she was very happy to go. So may it go well for her in Singapore. That's where she's doing her retreat, in Singapore. And of course, to mention that our Anagarika also left after her 2-week retreat too. That was puja. And I just want to mention we have enormous gratitude, as I mentioned, for Aya's work for 11 years here, 2 years in the the centre that they had in Melbourne called Sangamitarama. Fantastic. I think sadhu for that. And part of the reason she was so joyful was that she left having accomplished what she wanted to accomplish, having established here at Newbury the fourfold Buddhist community, fully ordained nuns, which is big because there's not so many places for fully ordained nuns. Fully ordained monks, there are more places for us around the world, and also for the laymen and lay women. So that's the full Buddhist community. And this property really serves that very, very well. So, and just to mention, for the monks community, it wasn't as eventful for us. It was much smoother for us because we had our 2-week retreats, and also Richard, who's been supporting the monks for 8 years, I think now, supporting the monastery, and also Martin, who is here, who's a caretaker at SOS, at Sanctuary of Stillness. So we had our retreat. So that just gives you the introduction to an overview of the Rains retreat. So it was a good one, and good one for me, and I think it was a time that we need to have for reflection, time to stop, as Don mentioned. I'll talk about that later too. So thank you very much. That's the overview of the Rains retreat for 2025.
Thank you, Ajahn. Now I'm going to keep the microphone with you, and we're going to have your Dhamma talk about the purpose and significance of Kathine.
So there we are. Now I've just got to keep to the time. This should be easy. Actually, we've only got 20 minutes, but it will be interesting to see what we do with some of the arrangements because of the weather. We may have to adjust the arrangements for food and the offering of rice, the pindapata. So anyway, so I just wanted to first of all put the Kathine in context, and this will be particularly useful for Don and those who are not used to this idea of the Kathine. And of course, the Kathine is the offering of robe cloth for the sangha, whether it be the nun sangha, I've got the choreography wrong, or the monk sangha. And that means that in the Thai tradition, we've had 5 monks or 5 nuns who spent the vasa together. That's in the Thai tradition. And then we can have what we call a kathine, which is the offering of a cloth, which is then sewed into a robe. Who sews that cloth? In Sri Lanka, or often in Sri Lankan tradition, it's the lay people. But of course, at the time of the Buddha, who sewed the cloth? We did, the Sangha did. And it was an important skill to have, to be able to sew robes. You couldn't go to a shop. There were no sewing machines. And so this kathine is very, very important for them because you could gather as a community, and the kathine is actually a frame, isn't it? And then you could have a number of monks, or if it was the nuns doing it, their kathine, then a number of nuns sewing around there, hand sewing. It's very interesting today that some of the more traditional forest monasteries, this is in the tradition of a forest monastery, we live in a forest, even some of them doing hand sewing again, which is wonderful. We're not. It takes too long, and but you need to work together if you're hand sewing. So that gives you sort of an idea of the kathine itself, but what leads up to it is very important. And I think Don touched on this, and of course the 3 months Rains retreat is such an important time for the Sangha, and it's when we focus on our inner life, our inner world, and this is a very important thing of coming home to ourselves, and that is something that we all need to do, not just the Sangha. And this retreat centre is for that purpose, so that the lay community and also the Sangha here at the monastery can have retreats. And it's very important for us to stop in the hustle and bustle of our lives. Don't wait for everything to be finished. You'll never get a break. It won't happen. So very important. And I was very delighted that during this Rains retreat period, the 3 months, we had, I think, 24 self-retreatants come. So that's wonderful. They're taking mainly for weekends, but we had some for a couple of weeks, 5 weeks. So very good to take these breaks, to be at home with ourselves. That was the theme for my retreat, actually, be at home with myself. And that's what we all need to do, be at home with ourselves. And the Buddha talks about making our refuge within ourselves by practicing mindfulness, by being aware of what's happening with the body, being aware of the feelings, and the third one, very important, being aware of what's happening in our minds. And the fourth, mindfulness, of course, reflecting on our experience in terms of the wisdom that the Buddha gave us, which is very, very helpful. So this rains retreat, of course, is always focusing on meditation, but that's not the whole story. Does life stop in a monastery? No, we have the dhanas every day. And this is the challenge that Sri Juth was mentioning, really. This is a dual-purpose hall, dual purpose, for the retreatants and also for the daily offering of food here and the teaching, the daily teaching. So it's a balancing act, isn't it? When we have retreats running, and they usually, the retreatants, they stay in their rooms from 9:30 to about 1:30, but they come for the lunch offering, and then take the food, and then go back to their rooms. In the future, we are planning the next stage. We'd have a nice big meditation hall so there'd be no interruption, which would be much, much easier. But we're also, of course, as we must, all of us, really reflect on life and reflect on the nature of our experience, and this is really where a meditation centre, where the stillness that Don mentioned is so important, really just to get still and then to look at what we're experiencing in our lives, not as theory. Every Buddhist probably can say anicca, dukkha and anatta, and this means impermanence, unsatisfactoriness or suffering, and non-self. And they can all say that, but how do we actually experience that? That's got to be in our lives. And of course we can experience that much more when we are still, when we take a break from life. And it's not a waste of time. Sometimes people think, I'm so busy. I feel it sometimes. I'm so busy I can't take a break. But if we don't take a break, we will not be effective. We will not see things clearly. We'll actually waste time. So it is not a waste of time, stilling the mind, taking time out, having a retreat, going to the bush. I like that, sitting on a stump. Very good. And of course that's very important for our mental health too, because then we can not be overwhelmed by, the stresses and strains in our lives, not be overwhelmed by the greed. The Buddha is always talking about greed, hatred and delusion as being the big defilements of our minds, the things that really make us suffer, greed and the aversion and also delusion, greed, hatred and delusion. So this is what we are doing too when we contemplate, when we're in nature. When we're in nature, we get plenty of opportunity to see the nature of life. It is around us. Only the other evening, our Singaporean visitors arrived. And what did they arrive to? A dying kangaroo over on the nuns' side. And that kangaroo passed away later that night, which was naturally, which was good. It was very good. So we get teachings all the time. We see how the animals live. We see the change of the seasons. We see all the impermanence that's happening all the time outside of us. But of course, when we reflect, when we contemplate, it's good to see the impermanence inside the mind. That's where it really, we develop our own wisdom. So this is another aspect of what we do during the Rains Retreat. Of course, we do some study of the Buddha's teaching. I like chanting. This Rains Retreat for me has been doing chanting of the Buddha's teaching. And I know when I've been giving talks about the first 3 teachings of the Buddha, I gave talks about second and third, actually, not the first. Irupeka gave the teaching about the first, the turning of the wheel of Dhamma. The second and third, when I talk to people, when I give talks, I think how extraordinary that any spiritual teacher could teach this. It is so unlike any other spiritual teaching that I'm aware of, because it's so driven by wisdom, not so much by, there is devotion in there too, but the wisdom. And when I have been teaching about the characteristic of non-self, second teaching, and the fire sermon, or the discourse on fire, I just think, wow, what a mind that could see with such clarity our experience of body and mind. Extraordinary. And describe it. That's the extraordinary part. So, and of course, that apart from studying the chanting, we also just take time to relax and just be in nature. And that's very important for us. So that is the retreats. And each of the Sangha, and as I mentioned, the lay residency, have 2 weeks. And when they stay in their hut or their room, and they make arrangements for their food for the monks, we just come and pick up the food from the veranda of the main building in the monks area, and we spend that 2 weeks on our own. And so hopefully no emails and all those things. Very important not to have all that. And so it's a good opportunity for us to stop. And we also don't do much teaching during that rains retreat, except for myself and Ajahn Nissarano. They're very good. We keep the teaching going. And so that's important for us all to stop, and we don't travel that much. So that's the lead up to this Kathine. And as mentioned, we end the rains retreat with this invitation ceremony. It's called the Pawarana, and it's an invitation to ask for feedback. And then we also give forgiveness, ask for forgiveness and give forgiveness. Important to do both. So asking forgiveness is part of it. But when we give, we let go of those grudges, those hurts and things that we experience. So this is really a wonderful occasion that we have this opportunity to continue the tradition that the Buddha laid down, which is this robe offering ceremony, this Kathine. As mentioned, it was very different in the time of the Buddha, and it was really focused on the monks and the nuns community. And the lay community would come and offer cloth, and then the monks and the nuns would make their robes. These days, things have changed, and we have plenty of robes, but monasteries still need support for other things, and Sri Juth, our president, mentioned those other things. All the things that we need, like electricity and water. We've got the water and many sort of all the infrastructure and everything. So this is the support. We also get robes, of course. People do offer robes and bowls. And of course, the 4 requisites are very important. They are, of course, the robes and the bowl and the food and the medicine, and also a place to stay. I really appreciate my hut when I see those kangaroos out there in the freezing cold, in the rain, and they don't look excited by this experience they're having. They just sort of freeze and look at the ground. They don't even eat if they're really uncomfortable. So yes, we're very, very fortunate. It gives rise to, of course, these qualities that the Kathine and Buddhism encourages, really, of giving. Don, this is the very, very important aspect of our lives. It's really the giving that brings happiness, and giving service like you're doing, like I'm doing. I feel it's really actually a privilege in a way, because it's an opportunity that I won't always have. I'll soon be too old probably to do as much as I do now. And so we have this opportunity to give to others, to give to life. And when we give, we're actually experiencing that happiness within ourselves. And this is something that is a very important part of the practice often in Kathinas, they talk about, and this is the technical words, the anisangsa, the benefit, and they're often talking about a future life, in a heavenly existence. Great, that's okay. But really, the immediate benefit is this happiness, which we can use for our practice, which we can use in our daily life, because we need this happiness in our minds. The Buddha is, of course, talking about the happiness that comes from within. This is the happiness that is not related so much to outside, but it's the food that keeps us going, that happiness. And the happiness we can get from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching is fine, but it's not lasting. It's not something that we can really be fulfilled by. We always have to search for more stimulation through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching. But if we develop the mind, if we develop the heart inside, this is something that is more lasting and can feed our minds. It is food for the mind, as Ajahn Sunya will be talking about next week. This is really important for us, actually, feeding the mind with this happiness from giving. But also, of course, for each of us, for all of us, there's an enormous opportunity for gratitude too, just for the fact that we've got the Buddha's teachings and we have the Dhamma, we have the Sangha. It's wonderful that we have this incredible support. It's still available. It's still here now. Don't wait for the next Buddha. I say, we still have the current Buddha's teaching. So this is an opportunity for all of us. And when we practice, of course, practice is giving, as I mentioned, but it's also keeping the ethical training rules, the 5 precepts, as we call them. That is a big thing in our practice. It's important for us. It gives us happiness when we know, each of us knows, we're a good person. We're doing the best we can. We are trying to avoid killing living beings, hurting or harming other beings, either through our actions, our speech, or our mind, really. It's good. And then also not stealing, not undertaking sexual misconduct, not lying, and not taking alcohol and drugs, which lead to a lot of the problems in life. So this is wonderful if we keep these 5 precepts. These are a treasure. Everybody talks about world peace, and there are many great words, very noble sentiments that people have. But this is one of the biggest contributions to world peace. If we are an ethical person and encourage others to be ethical too. So this is really an aspect of the practice that we see the value in. Not only will it be valuable for world peace, it'll be valuable for our relationships with our partners, our family, our children, friends. It's valuable for everyone. The Buddha says when we have an ethical standard, when we keep the 5 training rules, we give this sense of freedom to other people, freedom from worry, freedom that will harm them or hurt them. And a good person actually gets a lot of respect. But the main point, the main respect, of course, is we can respect ourselves, that we're doing our best, and we are developing this ethical standard. We are living by it. We're walking the talk. That's good. So that's important. And of course, the other aspects that are very important for us in our practice is developing mindfulness and the meditation. Mindfulness is a part of meditation, but it's also something we can take into our daily lives. And this is very important, that we have this awareness of what we're doing in the present moment. We have an awareness of what we are saying. This is really important, isn't it? And then an awareness of what's going on in our minds. So this mindfulness is the great protector for us, and it also protects others. The Buddha gave the simile of the acrobat. Do you remember that? The simile of the acrobat? Where he said the acrobat was supported by somebody who was standing underneath the acrobat, and who was doing all these sort of being held up on a pole above the main support, and doing all these amazing movements on a pole. And the acrobat said to the person who was holding the pole, I will look after myself and you look after yourself, and that way we will succeed, we'll make a living from doing this. And the support person said, no, I will look after you and you can look after me. And the acrobat said, no. And what did the Buddha say? No, we've got to look after ourselves so we can then look after others. We've got to do the work. We've got to do the practice, whether it's the giving, whether it's the ethical behaviour, developing the mind in mindfulness. And as Don mentioned, and this is the whole point of this centre too, for the mind to become still, very, very important. And when the mind becomes still and the speech reduces, then we can see things clearly. When the mind becomes still, then the negativities in the mind drop out and we can see things as they truly are. And of course, then develop insight and really the deep wisdom which leads to awakening or enlightenment. So that is the purpose of our lives, really, to practice and to be a benefit to ourselves, to others, and to the world. So this is something we can do, and this is what the Buddha was encouraging us to do. So I'd like to finish there, just to give you an idea. Hopefully you've got an idea of the fact that we have this rains retreat for 3 months. Then we have the invitation where we open up for feedback. Interestingly, there's usually no feedback, generally. But I have heard Ajahn Brahm tells a funny story with one of the trainees, Anagarikas, in a monastery in Thailand. He came with a big list and told everybody off, but generally not. So this is it. And then, of course, the Kathine, this show of support. And when we come together like this is very important too. It's a bringing together, a celebration of community, that we come together to support the monastic Sangha, to come together to support the practice of Dhamma, which is also the meditation, also the giving, all that. So this is an important day for the community to come together, to really, and of course the Buddha says, doesn't he, mentions to us that the spiritual life, his attendant, actually, Venerable said, half of the spiritual life is good friendship or spiritual friends. And the Buddha said to him, no, Ananda, no. It's the whole of the spiritual life is our friends. So this is an important thing we're doing when we come together. And we call our spiritual friends in Pali, Kalyana Mitta. And of course, who was the best Kalyana Mitta? And that was... That's good. No, the Buddha was. The Buddha was. And he's a spiritual friend. It's very interesting. He's not a guru. He's a spiritual friend. That's a different way of relating to him, to the Buddha. So I'd like to finish this short talk with the rumbling of thunder in the background. They did say it was going to happen. I was hoping it wouldn't, but it is the nature of life. So now I hand over to Ben for the arrangements. Now, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? Yeah, what are we going to do?
As you can see, we're activating our wet weather program. So, okay, so what we are going to do is have the Pindapata inside. So obviously we can't do that with everyone. So what we're asking is that each family to select one member of the family. If you have a youngest or an oldest child, you can select them, or if you don't have children, that makes it easy. So yes, we're going to do it inside here. These containers
Oh, that's good.
are for your lunch. but also the offerings will come out of these containers as well. So we don't have any plates today. These are for everything, so don't throw them out.
Cool.
And then after the offerings, then we'll keep everyone seated and then we'll guide everyone out and just follow the volunteers. We've got it all set up to come through. So, so I suppose the next thing is to select who is going to do the offerings.
Before we start the Pindapata, the Sangha will give a short blessing, because I know some people, maybe Don, I don't know, whoever, may be leaving. So it's good to have a short blessing. I'd forgotten that one.
Apologies, I've missed that.
No, I missed that too. Yeah. There we are. So if the Sangha would like to join in with this, and this is a short blessing for everyone. There we are. Samba roga vinimuto, samba santa pavajito, samba veramati kanto, nibuto chatuam bhava, sambitio vivajantu, samba rogo vinasatu, Mate bhavatwantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava abhivadana silisa nicham buddha pacharino chattaro dhamma vadanti Ayuano Sukham Balang Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. So that's the short blessing. We have a longer blessing in the afternoon after the main ceremony. All right, great. Sorry, there we are. Would you like to continue then, Ben? That's great. We're going to do it in the hall then. Is that the idea? That's
yes, good. In the hall. So, make your selections. Happy to have the oldest or youngest child or whoever you feel fit. And then
it's going to be interesting.
Out.
We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
So we're going to start it.
Yeah.
Around here.
Yep.
So guys.
Invite who?
And should I come over here?
It was good. It was really nice talk, actually. It was lovely.
Make your way over here to the volunteers.
Over here. Youngest member of each family. So can one person of each family start? We're starting the Pindapata line here, and we're going to wrap around the room. So can we start here? Yes. Yes, thank you. It's all right. You look young. Stand here. Yep. Yeah.
And everybody.
Thank you.